In today's video, I'll be showing you guys 6 tips that you can use to win more ranked games in Loomian Legacy. Oh shoot, I gotta change my avatar. One sec. There we go, that's more like it. Anyways, so if you don't know who I am, I'm Bay. I recently hit top 100 in ranked year 1 season 3. And I've defeated countless of top players before using the strategies that I'm about to show you in this video. And if you follow these strategies, then eventually you should be able to get yourself some accomplishments, maybe defeat some strong players, or just become a better PvPer, or even just have more fun with the game. So let's just go to tip number 1, and this is just the basic first tip. Identify what you're bringing the least to your battles. So I just have a reference team here, for example, just to demonstrate this. So let's say you're just using this team and you're bringing a lot of these Loomians to the battle. You have to bring 5 out of the 7. You're bringing like Blowtox, Imperior, Plasmoth, Valkyrie, Maraith, but you're often leaving behind Loomians like Venilin because you just aren't really using them in the battle. That's where you should start. If you're not bringing a Loomian to at least half of your battles, or about half of your battles, then chances are it's just not doing much for your team, and it's probably better to replace it. So examples, let's just see what Venilin is meant to do. It's supposed to just be a range tank and tank these ranged hits. You could just replace this for something that fits the team better. So a ranged tank, for example, that could fit this team better is... So maybe Wobblus could fit this team a little bit better, and because it's not only a ranged tank, but also has a different typing than most of the Loomians here. If it works, it works. If not, then just go back to the drawing board, try and find a better replacement, and just figure out what fits your team the best. We're going to move on to tip number 2, which is develop a plan against Loomians that your team struggles against, and change your own Loomian sets to help against them. So one weakness of this team, I would say, is Garbantus. Garbantus hits you for super effective. It can use Earthquake on Maraith and Blowtox. It can just Battering Ram Imperior, while Imperior can't really threaten much back. Dratiki could maybe do something, but it is also going to take a lot from Battering Ram, and it can also just get slapdowned, so... One thing you could use to have this in mind is, for example, you could put heavy armor on Dratiki. You could even put like Terra Pearl on Maraith to help with that. You could even put like Martial Pearl on Wungus or Wobblisk. Plasmoth, you could just run like Pestilence, but also run something a bit more melee defense. So a few of these adjustments should help you like against some of your weaknesses, and you should aim to do that, especially against Loomians that are just very commonly can do a lot of stuff to your team. Experiment around, see what counters you can implement to help your team against these kinds of matchups like Garbantus. But the Loomians that you're weak to can also vary depending on what kind of team you're using. Like for example, if you're using a Heat team, then if you're using Heat team, then you're probably going to be weak to rain if that's set up, so keep that in mind. And that moves on to tip number 3. Don't make hard reads unless you can afford to get it wrong, or it's your only possible winning option. So let's say, for example, you have Blowtox and you're staring down for example, Tyrex. So if you want to try and read like a Kanibo swapping in to take a Wave Wrecker, then if you want, what some players will try to do is they'll try and click Bone Crunch in front of the Tyrex, expecting the Tyrex to switch out because, oh, the Tyrex doesn't want to take a Wave Wrecker. However, your opponent can easily just punish this if they stay in and just choose to sacrifice Tyrex. And if they do that and they just knock out your Blowtox, then all of a sudden you'll be behind without gaining much. So if you're in like a neutral position or even winning position, don't make hard reads unless you can afford to get it wrong. You want to make plays that cover as many options as possible, which is why I advise not making hard reads unless it's your only possible win condition. And now we're going to move on to number 4. Your team needs a defensive backbone. Plain and simple, if you're just going to put 7 attackers on one team, you're probably not going to get very far. If you have, like, for example, 4 attackers on the team and maybe like 2 or 3 tanks, then your chance of succeeding is a lot higher because you have tanks that can help get your strong attackers in at good times. The concept of hyper offense, where you just have a bunch of attackers and then you have tanks to support them. However, even you don't have to always have attackers. You can just have a lot of something called bulky offense, where you just have bulky Loomians that can take hits but also deal damage back. However, it's just important having a defensive backbone so that you can switch in on so you have at least one thing that can switch in on any kind of attack. That moves on to tip number 5. Don't be afraid of using meta Loomians if it works well with your team. One of the most common pivot / tanks in the entire game is Luminami. However, a lot of players will try and avoid that and use stuff like Tsukame, Parasol. But like, don't be afraid to use meta teams, or at least meta Loomians. If you want to run your own unique team, that's fine, but being afraid of using meta Loomians can just really hinder your performance. And you don't have to run like complete meta teams, but you can at least incorporate meta Loomians if it works well. And number 6, which I think is the most important like skill to have, especially in the middle of a battle, figure out and learn situations where you need to sacrifice something and know what you need to sacrifice. So let's just paint a picture here. Let's see. I have let's say Valkyrie, Wobelisk, and Plasmoth in the end game. They're all gonna go down to a Rogue Assault from Akalos, but the Akalos can only click one attack. If it's, for example, Akalos and something like, let's say something like Dregadine. Like if it's Akalos and Dregadine in the back, and you have to take a Rogue Assault, you need to know what to sacrifice. Against those last two, I would say the best option here is honestly just sacrifice your most defensive piece so that your late game sweepers can win you the game. You would want to sacrifice Wungus just because it can't really heal outside of Health Amulet. And you would also just, I don't think you'd be able to knock out Dregadine in time. And then in front of Akalos, Wobelisk is a little bit awkward. And you don't want to leave Plasmoth as your only way of dealing with Akalos. So in that kind of situation, you would sacrifice Wobelisk, and it would give you an upper edge of potentially winning the game. So yeah, those are 6 tips that you can use to incorporate and win more battles in ranked. And heck, you may even hit top 100, top 25. It's up to you how much you want to learn from this video. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.